cricket one time. It's time to party. Suit up for four, make you run up the scores all night. It's 2020. This a new spin.
We hope you are as ready as we are for the Ultimate 11 T20 discussions here on your home of champions. We had the Football Ultimate 11, Test and One-Day International Cricket discussions, and now it's time for the T20 edition. 4 categories over 8 days, 2 days to debate on who makes the final cut for each category. As usual, you can have your say by logging on to www.sportsmax.tv/ultimate and select your team. Your votes are worth 35%. Our experts have a 40% say, and the zone team has a 25% stake in the final decisions. The 4 categories to be debated on are openers, batsmen 3 to 5, bowlers, and a special impact players category to add flexibility for team selection. Here are some guidelines for our discussions. The wicketkeeper must be included in either the top 5 or impact players. Impact players will be the final category discussed. Impact players can be placed strategically in batting lineup. Discussions will surround all T20 cricket and not just T20 internationals. Wildcards can be introduced on any day of the discussion. Each analyst can only introduce 1 wildcard per category. Well, Lance and George are eagerly standing by. Gentlemen, this seems like the perfect time to try and select an ultimate T20 11, especially with the CPL coming up in a matter of weeks.
We'd say that for sure. One of the interesting things about this T20 Ultimate 11 discussion is the fact that such a heavy volume of the analysis will be based on non-international cricket, because most of the T20 cricket is franchise cricket, which we did not have that situation existing when we were talking about the Test cricket or the ODIs. There is some limited English 50 over cricket that foreign players do partake in from time to time, but for the most part the analysis for the ODI and Test cricket was based on international performances. Now the IPL and the big T20 tournaments globally will factor heavily into our discussions here, because so much of that is played.
Well, I tell you what, this T20 Ultimate 11 should really be Kieron Pollard, DJ Bravo, and 9 others. However, when I'm sure the experts and the fans will be voting online at sportsmax.tv, they'll be looking at numbers and they'll be saying, well, the numbers for this and that player are more sexy than the numbers for DJ Bravo and Kieron Pollard. But when you look at what Kieron Pollard and DJ Bravo have helped to win for their franchises in T20 cricket, you'll realize that those 2 guys are boss performers. So unlike the Test selection where it was heavily based on numbers, well, in some respects, and then the numbers for some people were ignored because they were registered way back then. The beauty about T20 cricket is this: there's no player from the 80s to select. There's no player from the 1970s to select. It's all about when T20 cricket started, which is relatively recently, and this makes it a better contest, a more competitive contest. This is going to be the hardest team that this panel will help to select. And I'm saying, when you look at what Pollard and Bravo have done, how do you tell me that any 2 players should get in over them in any T20 11, or even that they shouldn't be in any T20 11, regardless of what the raw numbers say about their performances? It's all about impact. Alkaline said that in a song, and impact is what Bravo and Pollard have had throughout their T20 career at franchise level, and of course at the international level as well.
I think some Chris Gayle fans are going to attack you as well.
Oh, George, but no. So I made a mistake there, but because I've said this repeatedly even before the T20 selection was done. I've said that it will be Chris Gayle plus 10 for the T20 team. So
okay.
Good afternoon, Christopher Henry Gayle, wherever you are.
No, because you just said
yes.
Pollard and Bravo, yes.
Pollard,
and then you pick 9 others.
Pollard, Bravo, to join Chris Gayle
okay.
in the 11, and then whatever else you want to do with the team after that, I'm fine.
Good to see you.
But I'm looking forward to these discussions, though, Mariah and George, because of, as I mentioned before, the fact that the international part of these players' games may not value as, or counters heavily into the analysis as the franchise.
It will be a footnote, Lance.
It shouldn't.
A footnote,
Yeah, because
Yeah,
it is so.
footnote.
But I guess you could argue, though, that the international game could be argued to be more testing because the opposition, team for team, would demand more of the players.
Yeah.
Because
No, but the franchise teams, I think the franchise...
outside of the IPL, there's a lot of... Outside
Yeah, but the
of
IPL is the main. The IPL is the main thing, which is why I've picked my guys, because
You're
my guys have been
miss-
superstars at
Yeah,
IPL.
but
You'll miss
the
out Sunil
Pakistanis
Narayan.
don't play in the IPL.
Go again.
Sunil Narayan is in mine.
Okay.
We
All right.
need that bowler.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the Pakistanis don't play in the IPL, George, do they?
Yeah, but which
And
all
from
right.
time to time,
Let's-
because of international duties,
Yes.
there are some of the best players in the
From
world
where?
who are not.
From where?
From time to time.
From where?
Some
No,
of
no,
the,
no.
some of the
Where?
Aussies,
Yeah.
some of the
From
Aussies,
Aussie-
some of the Englishmen
Hold on, stick a
are
pin.
not a part of the
Stick a pin.
IPL.
Just stick one pin. And I'm sorry, Mr. Producer, we're arguing already, and this is not how you designed your program, but this just shows you what we're going to have. Lance Whitaker, tell me which Pakistan T20 player deserves to be even be mentioned in the same bracket as Gale, Pollard, and Bravo, who I am sure panel will say are not certain picks, like I'm saying that they should be certain
Yeah,
picks,
those
and like
are what we
Mariah
like.
is saying. Which Pakistan player is in that bracket?
Well, I'm not thinking of any being top flight, but
That's the
certainly
problem,
they will
my
be in the
friend.
discussion.
That's the problem.
They would be in
Well,
the discussion.
No, but
Well,
there
no,
should
not
be
in the
names
discussion.
that jump out, and the fact that you can't think about one now.
Exactly, and that's the point I'm making, Lance. So I'm saying any player worth his or her salt, well, his salt, regardless of circumstance, has played in the IPL at some point and would have started in the IPL. I'm saying I'm so happy that the T20 selection is about a version of the game that is new. And that you can just look exactly what the players have done. You can measure everybody, and you can measure people against each other. One of the difficulties we had with the Test team, especially, and even the ODI team, how would you
Decades.
measure Viv Richards against Virat Kohli?
Yeah.
How would you measure Don Bradman against Lara or Shiv or Ricky Ponting or Gil or whoever it is? These players, you can measure everybody head to head because they've played head to head numerous times, regardless of where. And I'm saying. International cricket, but you made the point, lad, so I don't know what you're saying. International cricket will be the footnote. It's a footnote.
Yeah, but the point you just made is a very interesting point as well, because long have we discussed how difficult it is to compare athletes over generations. I've asked in the office a couple of weeks ago, who is the greatest American sprinter? Is it Jesse Owens or is it
Yes.
Carl Lewis?
No.
Jesse Owens has a personal best for the 100 meters of 10.03 seconds.
Yeah.
Carl Lewis ran 9.86 seconds. So statistically, it would be a no-brainer. You would say Carl Lewis. But the body of work that Jesse Owens did and the time that he did it and how superior he was to everyone else does force you to look at his body of work in a calculated way and not just compare performances, because if you do that, a lot of the performers from generations ago will score low points.
Well, Lance and George, I'm loving the excitement. I'm loving the debate between both of you already and the energy. So we're going to take a short break and come back, and then we introduce our panel. And of course, we want to invite our viewers to get ready and start voting. We'll be back.
Suit up for 4, make you run up the scores all night. 2020. This a new spin. Are you ready? 20. This a new spin. Are you ready? The battle begins. It's time to party.
Welcome back to our Ultimate T20 edition, and of course today we will be narrowing the openers list from 13 to 6 players. George and Lance are standing by and they're excited to introduce our panel. Welcome back, George and Lance.
Yeah, thanks.
What?
George is laughing already. I'm not too sure why.
No,
George.
because
what's the issue?
I think we've seeded the discussion very well for the three gentlemen who we're going to speak to today, Lance. You're going to introduce them, but you know, I like the panel. It's an aggressive panel. It's a youthful panel. It's a varied panel. We have an Indian, we have an African, and we have a Caucasian. So the mix is very good.
You mean the transporter?
You gave it away. I was pulling his leg. Go ahead.
All right, today we're going to narrow the openers list. We have 13 at the moment. We're going to 6. Let's look quickly now at the short list of 13 opening batsmen for your ultimate 11. We have Rohit Sharma, Martin Guptill, David Warner, Aaron Finch, Chris Gale, Brendan McCullum. That list continues with Quinton de Kock, KL Rahul, Tilakaratne Dilshan, Lendl Simmons with 2 L's, Shikhar Dhawan, Evan Lewis, Shane Watson. Those are the 13 on the shortlist at the moment for the T20 openers. And at the end of today, we'll be left with 6. Looking at that list, I think it's going to be a pretty robust discussion to arrive at 6 players out of the 13. Let's welcome today's panel. Regional cricket umpire, Chris Taylor. Yeah, there he is. We have cricket commentators, Sachin Ramsubag from Trinidad and Tobago, and Vernon Springer from St. Kitts and Nevis. Oh, well, Vernon isn't there. It's Kerry Scott is there. He's a Jamaican, and he was a part of our previous discussions when we were doing the Ultimate 11s for the ODIs and the Test cricket. Well, gentlemen, you would have seen the 13 that we're going to narrow down to 6. I think we'll look at them in groups as we go through the list of quality in the opening batsmen. But let's get your opening remarks on the 13 that are in front of you. Chris, first.
Yeah, greetings to all. I mean, exciting stuff. I would like to say that, strong comments by both yourself and George up front and so on, really setting the tone. And unusually, for the most part, I agree with you both. But I think that this group of 13 certainly very exciting, gentlemen. I mean, all have performed very well in the different franchise leagues across the world and on the world stage, some to a different extent. I think this format, even more than some of the other formats, considering that this is a West Indian show, the West Indians really make a big name for themselves in this format, a one that the West Indians have really dominated. So, but I think even within this group of 13 cricketers, there are a couple guys that we will see as we go along really stand out above the rest. And I think that when we come down to that final two might actually be a little bit easier than we thought.
Oh, well, let's see. Sachin, your views on the 13 opening remarks.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening to everybody, and I hope everybody's doing fine. And 13 players, 13 of the best openers for T20 cricket. I certainly think it is a tremendous amount of talent and, of course, a tremendous amount of blistering batting that could happen if all these players were to play at the same time. But a few names would stand out for me in terms of this T20 format. Of course, Christopher Henry Gale, certainly on top of things there. He's one person that could take apart any bowling attack at any point in time. Lokesh Rahul, or KL Rahul as he's known on the list. Of course, he's a young guy, but his statistics is proving to be something that is quite tremendous. And I want to rank Evan Lewis in there as well. He's only played a small amount of international matches, but his strike rate is tremendous, 155 runs per 100 balls. That is something that is quite impressive for a young player, and even scoring 2 centuries against the then #1 ranked team in the world, which was India. So a lot of talent there to talk about. And I mean, we have some names in and around there who also have captaincy experience. Brendan McCullum and the likes of Tilakaratne Dilshan, Kumar Sangakkara is there in between the next list as well as we go along in the days to come. But of course, in this particular list, Christopher Henry Gill certainly stands out together with an Indian guy, Rohit Sharma, and of course KL Rahul.
Yeah. All right, Kerry Scott, your views here. 13 players on the table at the moment for the opening batting positions, which we will have 2 when we're all finished. 3 West Indians, 3 Aussies, and 3 Indians among them.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked at the 13, I couldn't hardly see too much difficulty in it in terms of the guys who are there. They all would have done something at various times during the period to get into the list. I thought I would have maybe seen someone of the likes of A.B. de Villiers in it, but again, when you look at the full body of work, this 13, they seem good enough. One of the things that I was a little bit worried about, though, when I saw it, I really and truly didn't see much of the much players like in the subcontinent, the Pakistanis and so on and so forth. There was no mention of even somebody from anybody from South Africa apart from the Cock. I thought, and I really think that they also have some people who would have done well, but again, only 13 can be selected.
All right, well, shall we start looking at the 13 then, and in the groups as decided on by our producer. The first group I'm looking at includes Rohit Sharma, Martin Guptill, David Warner, Aaron Finch. Chris Taylor, since we started off with you, how does this first quartet grab you?
A very strong quartet. I mean, David, I know I heard none of the other guys mention David Warner, but this is a man who is second on the list and behind Chris Gayle in terms of centuries in this format. I mean, he scored 8 centuries over some 75 half centuries, the Australian. I mean, he's been devastating in all forms, in all places in T20 cricket, everywhere he has played on the international scene. I mean, just one T20 100 up there, but he's been phenomenal, really puts people on the back foot. His countryman, Aaron Finch, a right-handed version, has been excellent as well. I think this is a format that Finch has really done the most of in his career, or made the most of his talent, I think, and so on. So this is a very strong quartet. The New Zealand, Martin Guptill as well, he's come to the Caribbean, played very well in the CPL. He has strong feel. So I think actually that this quartet here would certainly make a big statement into getting into the second round. Of course, Rohit Sharma has the most T20 international hundreds with 4, sorry. So, I mean, really a top performer, especially for India. A little bit of sometimes of a hit and miss maybe in the IPL and so on, but certainly a player that when you see him in that lineup, you expect him to push back the opposition. So I think this 4 is actually 4 of the strongest guys in the lineup.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's move quickly along though, because we've got to go through all the groups, and we've got to get your comments on them. So Sachin, just your quick comments on the first quartet.
Yeah, just quickly, I just want to agree with Chris's points as well that this is a very strong contending group. I certainly think that they will probably make up the bulk of the players moving into the second round of elimination. In terms of Rohit Sharma, as he certainly said, big player, impact player, whatever team that he plays for, be it the Mumbai Indians or even the India A team. The senior team rather, I certainly think that he is the player that really would like to set the tone for you if you want to select your proper T20 team of all times. He can certainly take apart any bowling attack with not just slugging or rash shots, etc., but he plays proper cricketing shots along the ground. He's a fantastic puller of the cricket ball as well, so the fast bowlers love to bang it in. He will certainly take you apart and, of course, deposit over the ropes with much success.
All right, Kerry Scott, Sharma, Guptill, Warner, Finch.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 of them are outstanding, and the 3 of them are at the top of my list as well. As it relates to must have, certainly in your top 6, and then of course the man himself, the man they call Universe Boss, would certainly be very close behind them.
Yeah.
So when I look at the list, those guys are awesome competitors. And then when you throw in somebody like a Brendan McCullum, Killer Rahul, it really and truly is going to be very difficult to find players who can better the things that they have done.
Yeah, so we heard the opening remarks from our experts, narrowing, the 13 to 6, which we will achieve today, Mariah.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to see there's some sort of agreement right now. Nobody is pulling off each other's hair just yet. No sort of big argument coming from the panel. But we take a break and come back because we don't know what will be coming up next.
It's time to party. It's a cricket evolution. Make us start the revolution tonight. Cricket, we love it. 2020.
Welcome back to Ultimate Cricket, the T20 edition. We have 9 more openers to look at before we narrow the shortlist to 6. George Davis will lead this segment.
All right, gentlemen, so we've looked at 4, so we're going to run the rule over the remaining 9 now, and if we get the cards, we can crack on with that. So we're talking about Chris Gayle, Brendan McCullum, Quinton de Kock, KL Rahul. These 4. Kerry, you spoke about Chris Gayle earlier. What do you make of this line of 4 that we're looking at right now? Kerry's not hearing me. Sachin, I'll come to you. Chris Gayle, McCullum, de Kock, KL Rahul.
Yeah, certainly. Just by looking at this card, I can single-handedly remove Quinton de Kock off the bat because we already have a wicketkeeper lower down in the order, that of MS Dhoni, who is probably going to be the captain of this team. That can be argued. But based on this particular quartet, I think Quinton de Kock might be the one to go from this group with further discussions, possibly Brendan McCullum as well. But I don't want to rule out Brendan just yet because he is a crazy man. He is the man that could go out there and score a quick fire 50 from 20 balls. And that's what you need, is somebody who can capitalize on a power play. But yeah, for sure, Quinton de Kock. We already spoke heavily on Chris Gayle, so not too much analysis on him. KL Rahul as well as a fantastic prospect, but I think that he has a lot more years to play in him. So to make a proper judgment based on this group, I think, possibly Chris Gayle and Brendan McCullum might move forward. Quinton de Kock, for sure, for me, is the one to go out of this panel.
Yeah, looking at this card of 4, Chris, would you agree with those, and even Sachin has said it, that perhaps at their very, very best, if you were to take each man at his very best from the 4 that we're looking at, that perhaps de Kock and McCullum are a shade behind Gayle and Rahul? Would you say that?
Well, Sachin also made a good point that KL Rahul is still early in his career.
Yes.
Very exciting player. But as you say, you look at KL Rahul, he's only played 38 international matches, just over 100 in the domestic side. So yes, he started his career very well, exciting, but I would love to see how he progressed further. But very exciting in the early days. I certainly agree that de Kock would miss out here for me. Yes, he does add the option of a wicketkeeper, but I don't think he would be the first choice in this squad list of a keeper as well. Sachin did mention Dhoni. You also have the likes of De Villiers who can keep, and same Brendan McCullum who is in this lineup. Who, if you think about it, Brendan McCullum is 3rd on the list with T20 hundreds. He has 7 and over 50 half centuries at this level. Now we spoke in the test arena and so on about batsmen who, when you see them in your lineup, you're immediately on the back foot and you think to yourself, wow, if this person gets off, we're in trouble. Brendan McCullum is one of those players to me. I think that when people see Brendan McCullum in a lineup, he really has you on the back foot. He's a devastating player. His strike rated international T20 is is close to 140. So he could very well make it into the second round. He's a touch and go, but for me, Quinton de Kock would certainly miss out. And of course, not needed to say much about Chris Gayle as well. 22 centuries, over 80 half centuries. He's far ahead of everybody else, the universe boss. So I think his name goes forward without saying much.
Just before I go to the next card, Chris, are you saying that when you analyze Brendan McCullum's career from start to this point, you've seen that thread of consistency, which would perhaps encourage you to persevere with him for a little bit longer in this discussion?
Well, I guess all T20 cricket is a bit inconsistent, especially at the top of the order where you have impact players who are really, you're really wanting persons in T20 cricket to put you on the back foot. I think he's consistent in putting opposition teams on the back foot then. And his strike rate is very consistent. I think once you see Brendan McCullum at the top of your order, people say, wow, we need to have our game together or we're in trouble. And I think that he deserves more talk, and I would certainly have him going through to the second round in this list.
Hear you on that. All right, let's look at the next card. Next group of 4. Well, this is 5. Dilshan, Lendl Simmons, Shikhar Dhawan, Evan Lewis, and Shane Watson. I turn to you, Kerry, for your assessment of this group of 5.
Unfortunately for me, that group of 5 are either A, don't have sufficient games under their belts for me to really and truly put them in an all-time list at this point in time, and the others are relatively, or have done relatively average in the right across the various T20 leagues. I could find other persons who I would put ahead of them if I were to do so. But at the end of the day, I really and truly believe that it'll be hard pressed for any of those 5 to advance.
Sachin, would you agree with Kerry's sentiment that this is a weak group of 5?
Yeah, I want to agree with Gary. Very good point. The only guy I think could probably scrape through is maybe Shane Watson because of that all-round capabilities. He has the capabilities to bowl and at times open the bowling as well. He's a decent depth bowler when given the chance. However, based on what we have in front of us, they're a little bit on the plate. I would like to say in buffet style of talent and expertise in the T20 format. This 5, unfortunately, will not make the cut for me.
Yeah, same for you, Chris. Will you look at this 5 and move on down the line, or would you stay and examine it some more?
Shane Watson begs a lot of talk. The question is, do you leave Shane Watson, then he's in the impact list as well. Do you leave him there and say to yourself, well, let him do battle amongst that crew? But certainly with over 200 wickets in T20 cricket, he certainly adds an excellent all-round capability to any team. He was batsman of the tournament, I think, in the initial IPL. He's scored numerous centuries, six centuries in this format and so on. So certainly a player to be reckoned with. But I agree that he might just be a cut below some of the other guys. I think this is the weakest group this 5 year. Lendl Simmons, to me, even though good talent coming out of the Caribbean, I don't think he's done enough. Hasn't scored an international T20 100. Only has 1 in domestic T20 cricket. I think he would miss out, certainly, for me. Tilakarani Dilshan, been around a long time, exciting player. We think of the Dil scoop and all of that, but I don't think he has produced enough either. The amount of games he's played, he doesn't have enough scores over 50 for me. And I think the Sri Lankan would miss out because of that. But so those 2 for me are certainly out. Evan Lewis falls into the bracket of KL Rahul for me. He hasn't played. He doesn't have the level of experience to really judge. In the games he's played so far, though, certainly his statistics speak highly of him. He has 4 centuries in domestic cricket, in domestic T20, 2 at the international level. So if we are going off of promise from those 2 players, they could make it forward. But if you're talking about Lance's point about a body of work, they might fall short.
Hear you on that. So this group of 5, Mariah, our panel is saying that it's like water and a little bit of sugar in a cup versus the other groups, which are all fancy energy drinks from the big manufacturers. You have the task now of leading this vote as we look to whittle this group down from 13 to 6.
Definitely, and for our viewers now joining us, this is the Ultimate Cricket 11, of course, the T20 edition. Today we're narrowing openers from 13, a group of 13 to 6. So we begin the voting process now. Well, you got the opportunity to take a look at the shortlist. We begin with you, Kerry. Who are your 6 players that you're going to be keeping?
All right, so my 6, I'm keeping, of course, the universe boss. Warner. I'm keeping Rohit Sharma.
Kerry, we were having a bit of technical difficulties, so we only heard when you said the universe boss. Can you continue from that one?
Right, okay. Right, so the universe boss, I'm keeping David Warner. I'm keeping Rohit Sharma. I'm keeping Aaron Finch. I'm keeping Brendan McCullum.
Is that his 6? We need one more. Yeah. We need one more, Kerry.
KL
Rahul. Okay, so we heard your 6 and we move along now. We head across to Chris Taylor. Chris, who will be the 6 that you keep?
Yeah, I am with the 2 Aussie openers as well. That is Aaron Finch and David Warner. I think Chris Gale makes it without saying, so that's 3. I have Rohit Sharma. as well. That's 4. I have Brendan McCullum, just, for the points that I had made earlier with George. And number 6 is a bit of a tie-up for me. I'm going to leave out Shane Watson and have him do battling the impact players. So for me, it's between the two young upcoming players.
Yeah.
Let's see, West Indian show. I'll give Evan Lewis the nod.
All right, so Chris says he's West Indian and he's giving Evan Lewis the nod. Sachin, last but not least, who are your 6?
Yeah, I want to agree with my Caucasian friend from Jamaica, but it is a difficult task to choose that final 6th player. But you know what? I'm going to go with Rohit Sharma, number 1. Number 2, Martin Guptill. Number 3, David Warner, the left-handed demon. Number 4, Aaron Finch, who packs a serious punch any part of the world that he plays in. Christopher Henry Gale, of course, number 5. And you know what? I want to say Evan Lewis, I want to say KL Rahul, but in my opinion, I think these guys certainly have at least 5 or 6 years of cricket ahead of them, so they can really play their point. They can really prove their points and play a huge role in whichever team that they play for in the future. So with that being said, I want to pick Brendan McCullum because my wife is a huge favorite of Brendan.
Yeah, definitely. So we've heard all of the 6. And George and Lance, we obviously had differing opinions from our panel. You and Lance yourself, you have different opinions. I want to get my players into the Ultimate 11 as well. So when it's time for me to vote, I'll definitely, have my say over there.
But you could tell us your 6 now.
No, I don't want to say my 6 now. I just have a few right now.
Oh, you're working. So, you don't have 6 yet?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't. It's a work in progress, right? But I have, I definitely want Bravo, as we said initially. I want Chris Gale, but the thing is, I'm coming across as extremely biased. So far, the only Indian that I have is Rohit Sharma.
Okay.
They agreed on 4 players. All 3 agreed on 4 players. They had Sharma, Warner, Finch, and Chris Gale. All 4 of them said those. All 3 of them said those 4.
Yep.
Well, the scores have been tabulated and we're ready to make some cuts. Okay, well, the producer, I guess he wants to do some final checks on what's...
Can I hear your 6 though from this 13? Just this 13.
No, but I don't have 6.
Oh, you don't have your 6 yet? Okay, gotcha.
No, I don't.
Lance, your 6?
No, I don't have a 6 yet.
I have a 6.
Who?
Yeah, my 6 is Gale.
Right.
Well, my 6 would be Gale plus 5. Any other 5 would have be 5. But all right, Gale, KL Rahul, David Warner, of course, Aaron Finch. I like what Chris pointed out about Brendan McCullum. I'm going to go with Brendan McCullum, and I really think that he's a statement player, so I'm going to go with him. And it's no surprise to know that I'm going with Rohit Sharma. So I have 2 Indians, Rahul and Sharma. I have 2 Aussies, Warner and Finch. I have a Kiwi, and I have a West Indian.
You're doing well. 6. I'm proud of you. Lance and myself, we'll have to do some work on this. But in the meantime, our producers, they're ready. Let's make the cuts. So from our first group, let's see who remains.
No cuts yet. Well,
Quinton, he's gone. Well, based on what we're seeing here, there's a 3-way tie. Lewis, KL Rahul, and Martin Guptill. So among our panelists, we have to make some sort of decision because some of these need to go. So out of the 3 that I listed, 2 has to go. So I'm starting with you, Chris. Who will we be cutting? Which 2 would you say let's get rid of? KL Rahul, Martin Guptill?
Well, I was the one who had said Evan Lewis. I had given him the nod just based on, as I said, West Indian, a bit same for same in terms of himself and KL Rahul, in terms of, newness to the format and so on. Martin Guptill has been around for a long time, has produced well and so on. Not as exciting for me, and I don't think he pushes people on the back foot as much.
So is it Evan?
I will stick with my Evan. That's why I picked.
All right, so Chris is sticking with Evan. Kerry, will you be keeping Evan as well, or are you going to step out of the West Indies?
Unfortunately, I can't share Chris's
views on this one.
Right.
So KL Rahul will see for me.
So right, you're keeping KL. Sachin, who are you keeping?
Oh my goodness, lads, you are giving me lots of trouble here, man.
Just pick one.
You know what? It is really tremendous. Before the start of this show, I was not aware that we could have used IPL as an option to make our judgment. So I just pulled up Martin Gupta's stats there. Combined with international cricket and IPL, it's only under 3,000 runs that he scored as an opener. So I would probably want to eliminate Martin. So that's one out of the way.
So will you side with Chris or would you side with Kerry? Because in order for us to get rid of one, you will be the tiebreaker.
Oh gosh. Chris, you still have to purchase me a beer when I get to Jamaica, okay? I'm going to stick with Kerry.
All right. So KL Rahul is the one that remains. Well, George and Lance, you saw the cuts. Anything you would have done differently?
No, I'm happy they saved Rahul.
Lance, anything you would have done?
I think they have a solid 6. They have a solid 6.
All right, let's take a look at our final 6. We have David Warner, Aaron Finch, Chris Gale, Rohit Sharma, Brendan McCullum, and of course, KL Rahul. Well, that's it for day 1 of our Ultimate T20 discussions. Thanks to Chris, Kerry, and Sachin. We will be back on Friday when our panelists will select their 2 openers. We will also have the zone picks, plus you can check out what you've been saying online, so we will definitely be bringing that as well. For now, I tell you take care and we'll be back on Friday.
Make us start the revolution tonight. It's 2020. Stop acting like.